For the second unit of thermodynamics, in previous lecture, we discussed the limitations of first law of thermodynamics and need for the second law of thermodynamics. Spontaneous processes, criteria of spontaneity, entropy, statement of second law and cyclic processes. In continuation, today we are going to discuss heat engines, Carnot cycle, work done in Carnot cycle and efficiency of heat engines. At first, let us discuss what is heat engine. The flow of heat from a hot body to a colder body is a spontaneous process. The heat which flows spontaneously can be converted to useful work with the help of some device. A machine which can do work by using heat that flows out spontaneously from a high temperature source to a low temperature sink is called a heat engine. A heat engine works between two heat reservoirs, the hot reservoir and the cold reservoir. The hot reservoir is known as source and the cold reservoir is known as sink. Steam engine is a typical type of heat engine which extracts heat from hot reservoir known as source, converts some heat to useful work and throws the remaining heat to the surroundings, which acts as cold reservoir, that is sink. A heat engine running in periodic cyclic processes can produce work continuously. Now, what is efficiency of a heat engine? The ratio of work done by the heat engine to that of the heat absorbed by the heat engine from the source, that is from the hot reservoir, is called the efficiency of the heat engine. No heat engine, no matter how well it is constructed, can be 100% efficient. That is, no heat engine can convert all the heat extracted from the hot reservoir, that is source, to the useful work. Some of the heat has to be thrown out to the cold heat reservoir, that is sink. Sadi Carnot was the first scientist to realize this and deduce an expression for the work done in the Carnot cycle. Carnot employed a reversible cycle to demonstrate the maximum convertibility of heat into work. Carnot's engine or Carnot's cycle consists of 1 mole of a gas and it operates in 4 successive steps known as 4 strokes. The 4 operations of Carnot cycle are: first stroke is reversible isothermal expansion, second one reversible adiabatic expansion, third one reversible isothermal compression and fourth one reversible adiabatic compression. Here you can see the 4 strokes operating in series. Let us discuss the first stroke. It is isothermal expansion of the ideal gas. Ideal gas takes some heat from the source and it gets expanded. The gas is allowed to expand reversibly and isothermally at the temperature T2 so that the volume increases from V1 shown by the point A to V2 shown by the point B, and pressure of the gas decreases from P1 to P2. Since in isothermal expansion of an ideal gas, internal energy change remains 0, that is delta U remains 0. Hence, from first law of thermodynamics, which is delta U is equal to Q plus W, we can see that Q will be equal to minus W. In expansion, work is done by the system, hence work is taken to be negative. Therefore, from first law of thermodynamics, we can say that Q is equal to minus W. If we say that Q2 is the heat absorbed by the system and W1 is the work done by the system, then Q2 will be equal to minus W1 which will be equal to R T2 natural log V2 upon V1. This we have taken as equation number 1. Now the second stroke of Carnot cycle is reversible adiabatic expansion of the gas. Here the temperature changes from T2 to T1 and volume increases from V2 shown at point P to V3 shown at point C. Pressure decreases from P2 to P3. Here you can see the two strokes successively. First stroke, reversible isothermal expansion, and the second stroke, reversible adiabatic expansion. As work done here by the system adiabatically, hence the system cannot absorb any heat. Therefore, Q will remain 0. Now from first law of thermodynamics, that is delta U equal to Q plus W, we will get delta U is equal to W. Here also expansion is going on, hence work is done by the system on the surroundings. Hence by definition we will get CV equal to du by dt at constant volume. Here CV is the molar heat capacity at constant volume. This is equation number 2. Now for a finite change, delta U will be equal to CV delta T, or we can say CV T1 minus T2. Here initial temperature is T2 and final temperature is T1. Therefore, CV T1 minus T2 will be equal to minus W. This is equation number 3. Delta T is the change in temperature, which is equal to final temperature minus initial temperature, or we can say that minus W equal to minus CV multiplied by T2 minus T1, which is taken to be equation number 4. If the work done in this stage is denoted by W2, then we will get minus W2 equal to minus CV multiplied by T2 minus T1. It is equation number 5. Now we will go to third stroke. Third stroke is reversible isothermal compression at temperature T1. Here the gas will release some amount of heat which is taken to be equal to Q1. During isothermal compression, the temperature remains same at T1. Volume decreases from V3, which is denoted by point C, to V4, which is denoted by point D. Pressure increases from P3 to P4. You can see the 3 steps in succession. First one, reversible isothermal expansion. Second, reversible adiabatic expansion. And the third one, reversible isothermal compression. In isothermal compression, delta U will be equal to 0. And in compression, work is done on the system by the surroundings. Hence, W will be taken to be positive. From first law of thermodynamics, we can say that delta U is equal to Q plus W, and as delta U is equal to 0, hence Q will be equal to minus W. But as work is done on the system, therefore work is taken to be positive. Hence, we can say minus Q1 equal to W3 equal to R T1 natural log V4 upon V3. This is equation number 6. Q1 is the heat given out to the surroundings and W3 is the work done in third stroke. In fourth stroke, we will go to reversible adiabatic compression. Here, the gas will be compressed from T1 to T2 and no heat will be absorbed or given out because the process is adiabatic. The adiabatic compression is done from the temperature V4 to V1. The volume of the gas decreases from V4 denoted by point D to V1 denoted by point A. Pressure will increase from P4 to P3. The four operations you can see in succession. First one, reversible isothermal expansion from A to B, and system changes from P1 V1 to P2 V2 at temperature T2 and absorbing the amount of heat equal to Q2. Second operation, from B to C, which is reversible adiabatic expansion. System changes from P2 V2 to P3 V3 and temperature changes from T2 to T1. The third operation is from C to D, which is reversible isothermal compression. The system changes from P3 V3 to P4 V4 at constant temperature T1, and the amount of heat which is evolved is equal to Q1. And the fourth step is reversible adiabatic compression D to A, and the state of the system changes from P4 V4 to P1 V1. Here no heat will be absorbed or evolved, but temperature changes from T1 to T2. First operation is isothermal expansion at temperature T2. Second, adiabatic expansion from T2 to T1. Third one, isothermal compression at temperature T1. And fourth one, adiabatic compression from temperature T1 to T2. Now in fourth step, as it is adiabatic, no heat will be evolved or absorbed. Hence, Q will be equal to 0. And from first law of thermodynamics, we know that delta U is equal to Q plus W. Therefore, Q will be equal to minus W. In compression, work is done on the system. Therefore, work has to be taken to be positive. Therefore, delta U will be equal to CV delta T, which is equal to CV T2 minus T1. If W4 is the work done in this stage, then W4 will be equal to CV multiplied by T2 minus T1. This is equation number 7. Here T2 minus T1 is the change in temperature, which is also the increase in temperature in adiabatic process. If we take the net heat absorbed in complete cycle equal to Q, then it will be equal to the heat absorbed in first cycle plus heat released in third cycle. Hence, total heat Q will be equal to Q2 plus minus Q1. It is because Q2 is the heat absorbed in first cycle and Q1 is the heat released in the third cycle. So, Q2 plus minus Q1 will be equal to R T2 natural log V2 upon V1 plus R T1 natural log V4 upon V3. This can be written as RT2 natural log V2 upon V1 minus RT1 natural log V3 upon V4. This is equation number 8. For any adiabatic expansion for an ideal gas, we can say that, or we can take the example of second and fourth step in Carnot cycle, which are adiabatic processes. If we take the example of second step in the Carnot cycle from B to C, we can say CV natural log T2 by T1 equal to R natural log V3 upon V2. And if we take the example of fourth step in Carnot cycle, which is also adiabatic from D to A, we can say that Cv natural log T2 by T1 equal to R natural log V4 by V1. Now from these two equations, we can say that V3 upon V2 equal to V4 upon V1 or V2 upon V1 equal to V3 upon V4. This is equation number 9. Hence, putting this value in equation number 8, we can get the value of Q, which is equal to Q2 minus Q1 equal to R T2 minus T1 natural log V2 upon V1. This is given the equation number 10. Similarly, the net work done in the complete Carnot cycle can also be calculated. In first and second step, the work is done on the surroundings by the system. Hence, the work done in first step and second step are to be taken negative. In third step and fourth step, work is done on the system by the surroundings. Hence, in these steps, work is taken to be positive. Therefore, total work will be equal to minus W1 minus W2 plus W3 plus W4, which is equal to R T2 natural log V2 by V1 minus Cv multiplied by T2 minus T1 plus R T1 natural log V4 by V3 plus Cv multiplied by T2 minus T1. This is equal to R T2 natural log V2 upon V1 minus R T1 natural log V3 upon V4. This is equation number 11. Now putting the value of V3 upon V4 from the equation number 9, which gives V2 upon V1 equal to V3 upon V4, we will get W equal to R multiplied by T2 minus T1 natural log V2 upon V1. This is given to be equation number 12. It follows from the equation 10 and equation 12 that Q is equal to W. Hence, the condition that the net work done by the system and the net heat absorbed by the engine are equal is fully satisfied. The relationship between W, that is the net work done, and Q2, that is the heat absorbed from the source, means the reservoir at high temperature, can be derived for the Carnot cycle from two equations. Equation number 12, which is W equal to R T2 minus T1 natural log V2 upon V1, and equation number 1, which is Q2 equal to R T2 natural log V2 upon V1. Now from equation number 12 and equation number 1, we get W is equal to Q2 multiplied by T2 minus T1 upon T2. This is equation number 13. As T2 minus T1 upon T2 is less than 1, therefore W is less than Q2. So, it can be said that only a part of the heat absorbed from the hot reservoir at temperature T2 is converted to work, and rest of the heat is given out to the second reservoir, which is the cold reservoir or sink at temperature T1. Based on these observations, Lord Kelvin stated the second law of thermodynamics as: it is impossible to use a cyclic process to extract heat from a reservoir and to convert it into work without transferring at the same time a certain amount of heat from a hotter to a colder part of the body. This statement recognizes the fact that no heat engine can be 100% efficient because some part of the heat extracted from the hot reservoir has to be thrown out at the cold reservoir at lower temperature T1. Another definition was given by Clausius for the second law of thermodynamics. It is impossible for a cyclic process to transfer heat from a body at a lower temperature to one at higher temperature without at the same time converting some work to heat. This statement recognizes the fact that heat flows spontaneously from hotter body to the colder body. But if the direction of flow of heat has to be reversed, some work has to be done with some external agency. Now we are going to discuss the efficiency of heat engine. Efficiency of heat engine is defined as the net work done W by the heat engine to the heat absorbed by the engine at the higher temperature T2, which is given as Q2. Therefore, we get efficiency equal to W upon Q2 equal to T2 minus T1 upon T2. This is equation number 14. Efficiency is represented by the symbol eta. Since T2 minus T1 upon T2 is less than 1, hence efficiency is always less than 100%. The efficiency will be larger if the difference between the two temperatures, that is the temperature of the source and the temperature of the sink, is larger. This is the reason why superheated steam is used in steam engines. It is also evident from the equation for efficiency that efficiency will be maximum, that is it will be equal to 100% if T1, that is the temperature of the sink, is 0 Kelvin. The net heat absorbed in Carnot cycle is equal to Q2 minus Q1. Now from first law of thermodynamics, it must be equal to the net work done by the system. Therefore, W must be equal to Q2 minus Q1. Combining this equation with equation 14, we will get Q2 minus Q1 upon Q2 equal to T2 minus T1 upon T2. This is equation number 15. Hence, efficiency eta will be equal to Q2 minus Q1 upon Q2, which is also equal to T2 minus T1 upon T2. Here Q2 is the amount of heat from the hot reservoir, that is source, and Q1 is the amount of heat which is given out to the sink. T2 is the temperature of the hot reservoir, that is source, and T1 is the temperature of the cold reservoir, that is sink. This equation for the efficiency of heat engine has been arrived by assuming that the heat engine or Carnot cycle operates on reversible cycles. But in actual practice, it is not possible to operate a change infinitesimally slowly. Hence, the efficiency of the heat engine in actual practice will be less than the efficiency given by the equation. Now, we are going to discuss some examples related to calculation of efficiency of heat engine. First one is calculate the maximum efficiency of an engine operating between 110 degrees Celsius and 25 degrees Celsius. Maximum efficiency of an engine working between temperatures T2 and T1 is given by eta equal to T2 minus T1 upon T2. Here T2 is 383 Kelvin and T1 is 298 Kelvin. Therefore, efficiency will be equal to 383 minus 298 upon 383, which is equal to 0.222, or we can say it is 22.2%. There is another example to calculate the maximum work that can be done by a heat engine. Heat supplied to a Carnot engine is 453.6 kilocalories. How much useful work can be done by the engine which works between 0 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius? Here, higher temperature, that is the temperature of source, is equal to T2. which is equal to 100 plus 273 equal to 373 Kelvin. And the temperature of sink is equal to 0 degree Celsius, which will be equal to 273 Kelvin. Q2, which is the amount of heat absorbed, is equal to 453.6 kilocalories, which will be equal to 453.6 multiplied by 4.184 kilojoules equal to 1897.86 kilojoules. Now putting all the values in the equation, W equal to Q2 multiplied by T2 minus T1 upon T2, we will get 1897.86 multiplied by 373 minus 273 divided by 373, which is equal to 508.8 kilojoules. Therefore, maximum work done by the engine will be equal to 508.8 kilojoules. In the end, let us revise what we have discussed today. Today we talked about heat engines, Carnot cycle, work done in Carnot cycle and efficiency of heat engines. In continuation, in next lecture, we will discuss Carnot's theorem and the calculation of expression for entropy from Carnot cycle.